Hi, my name is Steffen Rachut. I'm a mental game coach for poker players. And in today's video, I want to share a few mindset strategies with you that will help you to deal with the variance that's unfortunately involved in poker better. But before I do that, I want to share a few psychological principles with you that are actually the reason why it is so hard for us to deal with downswings and the variance in poker in general. Now, first of all, you gotta understand that we have two very primal psychological needs that are the underlying reason why it's so hard for us to deal with the luck factor that's involved in poker. And actually, the luck factor is something that is absolutely unique in terms of, when you compare it to other sports, for example, you usually win when you play better than your opponent, which is not true at the poker table. So, first of all, we humans absolutely crave certainty. And as you can already see, maybe, certainty is not really something that poker is really good at. What that means is that when you're not really sure, even though you're playing correctly, you can't be sure about the results at the end of the day. This is where the uncertainty comes in poker. You could be playing your absolute best game for a month, in bad cases, and you're still losing money. And this, you gotta understand, this absolutely goes against human nature. We want to know what's going on. We want to be able to predict what the future has in store for us, and more so even when money is involved. Or in general, if we want to perform and there is, one factor, one variable that we cannot control. And that leads me to the second point. We also crave to be in control. We want to be in control over the income that we make, but we also want to be in control over how we feel. And again, this is not a strong suit of the game of poker, because you simply cannot control everything. Now, these are basically the two primary reasons why it's so hard for us, for anyone in general, to deal with the variance that's involved in poker. So, what do you do about it? Well, first of all, before I dive deeper into the actual mindset strategies, I want to say one thing. Before you start implementing any of these strategies, you definitely have to ask yourself one thing. Are you good enough for the games that you're playing right now? Because one thing that I see when I'm working with poker players, or in general when I'm communicating with poker pros, is that oftentimes they blame variance way too fast, right? It's kind of the scapegoat. However, the first thing that you absolutely have to do when evaluating whether variance is hitting you or whether you are actually in a downswing is to check your game, is to see whether you are making the correct plays. And if that's the case, then you should move on to the second stage and implement some of the mindset strategies that I'm about to share with you. Now, the good news here is I believe that variance is the part in poker that you actually have control over, in the sense that you can control your mindset. There are other issues when it comes to, performance anxiety or confidence or nervousness, something that poker players might encounter in general, that may be, deeper problems. However, when it comes to the mindset involved in variance, you actually have quite some things that you can do for yourself, that you can reframe mentally, that will make it easier for you to deal with them. So, first of all, over-attachment to money. This is one of the biggest things, universally I guess, that I've seen in poker players in general. Now, there are usually two primary reasons why you may be overly attached to the money involved in poker. One, poor bankroll management. I know this is not rocket science or anything, but let me explain. If you don't have proper bankroll management, the primal needs that I've been talking about earlier are kind of in danger, right? You may feel threatened because all of a sudden you have to make money. And every time you're in a position where these things are triggered, you will play worse poker, right? Every time these emotions or, a hint of desperation is involved in your poker game, your game will suffer. This is the first reason. The second reason may be deeper seated issues revolving around money. In this scenario, money itself is not really the reason for you to deal poorly with variance, but it's what money symbolizes for you. And this can vary from person to person, right? We're all different. For one person it may be, the money is actually a sign of status, right? And if you're taking away the money, if you're running bad, if all of a sudden your status has been taken away as a strong, competent, winning poker player, you may start to play worse because you're chasing the money for the wrong reasons. Secondly, over-attachment to results. See, the problem with being overly attached to the results in poker is basically that the feedback that we're getting from the poker table is not really accurate. And that's the way we humans learn, right? We learn through experiences. A very simple example might be, as a child you might have touched a hot stove and you learned that this hurts. Now, translated to the poker table, we also learn by doing, right? If we observe what's going on at the poker table, if we make certain plays and then we get certain results, obviously there is a learning effect. However, the feedback that is involved here is not accurate in the sense that you might be learning that a certain play is good or bad based on the results. However, as you probably know, you might have made the right play, but the result was different. So what that means for you as a player is that it is basically your job to make meaning of the feedback that you're getting from the poker table. And obviously that's not necessarily an easy task. So if you want to remain calm during downswings of variance, if you want to, become kind of unfazed by what's going on at the poker table, you absolutely have to detach or learn to detach yourself from the outcomes. And in a minute, I'm going to share, another mindset that's going to help you do that better. But let's move on to the third mindset strategy. So the third problem that I often see in poker players is that they use mental frames in a short-term manner, meaning that they're looking at their graphs or at their poker career in a time frame that's much too short, right? If you've been in poker for a longer while, you know that even very strong players can go a long time, without actually winning money. So for you, what that means psychologically is that you should, as best as possible, try to view your poker career as a whole, right? Try to not look at sessions, not single hands or single weeks, how they've been going for you, but try to have the bigger picture in place. And maybe you can already see that all these strategies, tie in together. For example, if you have a strong bankroll management, this is going to help you obviously to adopt this kind of perspective because you're not threatened by losing money because you have a large bankroll, right? Also, your competence is likely not threatened because, you are moving up and down according to your bankroll management. And if you're not overly attached to the results, then it's also easier for you to adopt, a wide perspective, a wide kind of mindset here. So that brings me to the last one. And this last mindset is actually by far the most important one. If you learn to adapt this mindset, I believe this is going to help you tremendously deal with the luck factor involved in poker. And this one, again, it's kind of similar to being overly attached to results, but this one is really focusing on the process, right? You, as a poker player, have basically one job. Your main task, in my opinion at least, is to look at making accurate plays and to becoming a stronger player, possibly day by day, right? So if you look at your personal poker career from this very angle, it's first of all making the accurate plays as often as possible, and then the next layer is really trying to make sure that you are in a position to make the right plays, which means that you have to study, you have someone to review your hands, your tournaments, maybe you have a coach or someone. Basically, you need an instance that's looking at your game constantly and that can, somewhat objectively evaluate whether you are currently making the accurate plays or not. And if you kind of adopt this focus on making the right plays, on becoming a stronger poker player, the rest takes care of itself, right? If you're focused on making the right plays every single day, and you're not checking your bankroll all the time, you're not checking your winnings, and you're kind of adopting a mindset of, okay, I'm in it for making the correct plays. My goal every single day is to play my best poker, and my secondary goal is to become a stronger poker player day by day. So I believe that these 4 mindset strategies are helpful, and my experience has shown them to be helpful in working with poker players. I really hope that you got something out of this today, and if you enjoyed the content that you just consumed, I would appreciate if you like my Facebook page so that I can send you more content like this regularly. So until next time, stay tilt free.